Hello, I'm Professor Paul Johnson and I'm Dean of the Faculty of Arts and Humanities. I'd like to welcome you to our Parkgate Road campus, which is home to our Departments of English, History and Archaeology, Modern Languages and Theology and Religious Studies. I'm going to hand over to some colleagues now who are going to show you some of our specialist facilities.
Hi, my name's Barry. I'm one of the senior lecturers in archaeology at the Department of History and Archaeology here at Chester, and this is our Archaeology Laboratory. So this is where we teach some of the more practical and scientific aspects of our course, and it's also a space where students can work on their own research projects as part of dissertations. So one of the things we teach in here is the archaeology of human remains. So this is where students learn how to identify the different bones of the human body, lay them out in their correct anatomical order, and then analyse them in order to be able to estimate the age of the person when they died, their biological sex, and maybe also look for changes in the bones, in the structure of the bones that might come about through periods of ill health or injury in the past. And then the students would bring that information together and interpret that in order to understand more about the population that these skeletons come from. So in this case, we're looking at skeletons from an excavation that was carried out in Chester in the 1970s, a site called Greyfriars Court, and it dates to the late 12th and early 13th centuries. It gives us a really nice idea about the health and the life of people in medieval Chester. The other thing we teach in the lab is environmental archaeology. So this is where students learn how to analyse samples that we take from archaeological sites and then use that to reconstruct something about the environments that people lived in. And what we'd normally do is we would, at the start of the year, we would take students out on a field trip, we would go and collect samples from an archaeological site, normally one that's part of our own research, and then we'd bring them back here to the lab, and students would learn how to break those samples down, record them, extract the materials that they want from them, and then they'd go into other parts of the lab and they'd learn how to record those pieces, analyse material, and then use that to sort of reconstruct the environmental conditions that people lived in. So the sorts of plants that might have been around, something about the environment and maybe the climate that people lived in. The other thing we use the lab for is to record and analyse material culture, so artefacts from our own excavations that we work on usually with the students. And I've got some really nice examples here. This is my favourite artefact that we've ever found. It's a projectile point. It's made from a piece of red deer antler. I don't know if you can just see along the edges of it. It's got a series of barbs or serrations along the edge. It's probably used as the tip of an arrow, and it's made from red deer antler, and it's around about 11,000 years old. It belongs to a period that we call the Mesolithic or the Middle Stone Age. This projectile point, they're incredibly rare in this country. This one was actually found by one of our undergraduates on one of our excavations. And what was really nice is that with this, we also found pieces of red deer antler as well. So this is one of the tines of a red deer antler, so it's one of the pointy bits that sticks up from the antler itself. And it shows evidence of having been used to make the raw material, or the blanks, from which this projectile point's been produced. And what's really nice about this is it gives us the idea that people aren't just making these projectile points. They go off, they're using them in the landscape, and then they come back to this particular location and they sort of deposit them along with the remains of the animals that they've made them from. Now, this is a really nice example of how we try and integrate our own research into our teaching. So the excavation is directed by myself and another member of staff, Dr. Amy Gray-Jones. We involve students in the excavations, and then as far as possible within some of the practical parts of our course, we also involve students in the analysis of the materials that we recover. So in this particular case, it was an excavation in a peat bog in North Yorkshire, and students on our environmental archaeology module analysed the samples that were taken from the trenches where this material came from, and they were able to show that this peat bog had previously been a lake, and the area where these artefacts had been deposited was actually an area of standing water. And we know from other sites that water is a really important element within sort of prehistoric sort of beliefs and ritual practices. And so from the work that the students have been doing, we've been able to suggest that this is probably material that's like ritually deposited into the edge of the lake around about 11,000 years ago.
Hello, I'm Mark Gant. I'm the head of Modern Languages, And this is the Binks building, which is where most of our teaching is based. So here's one of our language labs. There's some more seminar rooms just opposite. As we come down, there's another language lab just here. Our third lab is round the corner, so I'm going to take you through there now. Okay, so this is our largest language lab. This is 104. And you can see the layout. So on one side, we have the computers, and on the other side, we have tables where we can sit and do group work. So they're good spaces for a really varied session where we might meet first of all here, we might go and do some individual work online, and we might come back and share what we've been doing around the tables again. So that's fairly typical of the sort of sessions that we have in these rooms. Now, this building also houses our offices, so we're just upstairs. And you're really welcome to come and see us any time. We have what we call an open door policy, which means that students can just bang on our door, and if we're not immediately urgently busy, we'll see you there and then. Also upstairs, we have our student room. So that has some comfy seats, it has some workstations, a table, and that can be used for group work, or it can be used for social sessions as well. So also upstairs, we have another small space, a small room, which we use for conversation classes. So that's where you'll meet with native speakers to chat. And one thing that's really important here at Chester that we really value is that we meet together in smaller groups. We never pack you into a big lecture theatre for languages. So rooms like this, you'll be in groups of about 10 to 15. And that means that contact is really personal, that we can always see what you're doing, that you get to know each other really well.
Hi, I'm Sarah Heaton, Head of the Department of English, and this is the Vicarage, our home. Would you like to come inside? This is our beautiful vicarage where you'll enjoy studying, but we also have all our offices where you'll be able to join us for one-to-one tutorials and PAT meetings. This is our small lecture theatre here in the vicarage. You'll also be taught in seminar rooms in the vicarage, but also on campus there are the larger lecture theatres for the first year teaching, as well as specialist language labs. We also though use the vicarage for our community events. We've got a really strong sense of community here in the English department. We've got an English society. We also hold things like open mic nights in here, where lecturers will come along and read some of their own work, but also students do, and the students run it.
Hi there, my name is Paul Middleton and I'm Professor of New Testament and Early Christianity here at the Theology and Religious Studies Department at the University of Chester. And this is the home of our department, Hollybank. Hollybank is a 19th century school which has been renovated, and this building houses all of the department's facilities. So all of the staff offices are here. There's a computer resource lab, there's a kitchen, there's some social space, and all of your lectures will be held here. We've got 3 lecture rooms, and let me just show you one of them now. So this is one of our lecture rooms. This is actually our medium-sized classroom. Our large-scale one is where you'll have all your big classes, but we find that we like to have tutorials and smaller groups, and these rooms are ideal for it. So one of the real advantages with Hollybank, having all of the facilities, the classrooms and the staff offices in one place, is there's a real sense of community. It means that we can bump into one another in the corridor or stop for a coffee in the social space. And the students really value that. So here in Hollybank, there's a real sense of community in the Theology and Religious Studies Department at the University of Chester.